Looking for the latest comic book to add to your collection? How about the last card for that Magic the Gathering Commander deck? Well, the comic book stores got you covered. Shop online at comicbookstore.tcgplayerpro.com or come in person at 30 North Main Street, Glassboro, New Jersey. Pizza people, welcome back. We actually have a returning deck here on the channel. We're going to be playing some fight rigging yet again. This was definitely a favorite the first time that we brought it around, and guess what? This deck is still just as broken as it was the last time that we played it. We've actually made no changes at all to the 75. This deck is still just pumping along and just destroying opponents on the ladder left and right. We actually ended up with a really good record yet again here. We did play a good amount of games on my stream. You can find me twitch.tv/Hollywoodpizza, but let's go and go over the deck list for anybody who hasn't seen it before. So essentially this deck list is built around fight rigging. If you don't know, 2 colorless and a green enchantment. It has Hideaway 5, which means when it comes into play, you look at the top 5 cards of your library, you exile 1 face down, then put the rest on the bottom in a random order. And then it has, at the beginning of combat of your turn, you get a +1/+1 counter on a target creature you control. So essentially kind of like a Luminarch Aspirant type of ability. Then if you control a creature power 7 or greater, you get to cast the card that you exiled earlier for free. So what are we really trying to do here? We're trying to get one of our mana creatures down, Elvish Mystic or Landborn Elf, 1 mana 1/1, tap to add a green. On turn 2, we're trying to get one of our beefy threats, whether it be a Routing Regisaur, 2 colorless of black for a 7/6. At the beginning of your upkeep, you have to discard a card. Or Shakedown Heavy, 2 colorless and a black for a 6/4 menace. Whenever it attacks, the defending player may have you draw a card. If they do, you untap it and remove it from combat. So we're trying to get this down on turn 2. Then on turn 3, we'll essentially play our fight rigging, targeting one of our big cards already, or maybe even the elf if we have like a Routing Regisaur and we want to spread the counters around. And then we'll get to cast our card for free, and we're hoping to cast a Tina Industry, 4 colorless, triple green, 7/7. If you've seen it already, then you already know how powerful this card can be. Reach Trample. When it comes into play, you get to choose 2 of the 4 abilities. Destroy Artifact Enchantment, gain 5 life, make a 4/4 Rhino, or put a shield counter on a creature control. So just a very, very powerful card overall. Fantastic. We also have Great Henge, which we're going to be able to cast for free as well sometimes, or we get to cast it at a hugely discounted rate from either Routing Regisaur or a Shakedown Heavy. But Great Henge, 7 colorless, 2 green, but it costs X less, where X is the greatest power among creatures control. You get to tap it to add double green, and you get to gain 2 life, and then whenever any other non-token creature comes into play under your control, it gets a counter, and you draw a card. So essentially, lots of card advantage from this card alone, and being able to cheat it out into play early is quite phenomenal. On top of that, we have 2 other really big cards that we're mostly going to be trying to slam here. We have Elder Gargaroth at 5, same as Averter's Gearhulk, 3 colorless, 2 green for both. The Gargaroth itself is a 6/6, Vigilance, Reach, Trample, lots of abilities, and whenever it attacks or blocks, you get to choose one of these 3, which is create a 3/3 Beast, token, gain 3 life, or draw a card. Just a fantastic card against Rakdos Midrange, Cat Oven decks, anything like that. It has Reach, it has Trample, it can also block Yorion, anything like that. The Vigilance is great around, getting around the Wandering Emperor, things like that. We also have Verter's Gearhulk 4 of here as well, 3 mana. 3 colorless, 2 green for a 4/4 trample. Whenever it comes in, you get to distribute 4 +1/+1 counter among any number of target creature control. So you can either make this an 8/8 or kind of distribute some counters among your creatures if you're going wide with like some Land War Elves and just have some other bodies on the battlefield. Getting able to cast it for free off the fight rigging also feels pretty phenomenal. To kind of help round out the deck here in terms of some free stuff, we got Turn Timber Symbiosis, which can act as a land when we need it, or look at the top 7 cards of our library and put a creature card from among them onto the battlefield. If it has mana value 3 or less, it'll get to come into play with 3 additional counters like the Regisaur, Shakedown Heavy, Ronus, the Elvish Mystics. Essentially Turn Timber, 4 colorless, triple green sorcerer if we want to cast it on the front side, but a lot of the time we're mostly going to be casting it off fight rigging for free or using it as a land. And then to help round out the deck in terms of creatures, we have 1 of Ronus, which helps give our big juicy threats that don't already have trample. And on top of that, it's a Death Touch Indestructible for 2 colorless and a green, 5/5. Can't attack or block unless we have another creature power 4 or greater. So maybe if you're playing against like a removal heavy deck, it could be a problem, but a lot of the time in this deck it's not. And then you can pump up another target creature for 2 colorless and a green, and it'll get +2/+0, and gain trample until end of turn. For special lands, we have one Castle Garenbreg to kind of help cast multiple cards in a turn or help get to our Titan Industry a lot sooner. One of Boseiju to help against Fable the Mirror Breaker or any problematic artifacts or enchantments. 2 Lair of the Hydras, which is just a fantastic creature land overall. And then we have our combination of just like, dual lands with like the Bloomy Marshes, Pathways, couple Deathcap Glades, and 4 Overgrown Tombs, as well as a Swamp and 3 forests to go along with the rest of our mana base. For a sideboard here, we have some cards that you're actually not seeing main deck that you would normally see in black eccentric decks here. So to start it off with, that I haven't talked about yet, we do have a companion here in Obosh that we can put into our hand for 3 mana and then cast it later for 5. So essentially it means that we can only have odd mana cards in our deck, but we're completely okay with that as most of our strategy revolves around 3 mana, 5 mana, 7 mana cards. So Obosh 3 colorless, and then hybrid black-red, black-red, 3/5. If a source you control with odd mana value would deal damage to a permanent or player, it deals double that damage instead, so just a super powerful card. If you're able to get it to stick on the battlefield, especially if you have some trampling threats, or you can give something trample with the Ronus. Shakedown has menace, things like that. The rest of our sideboard here, we have 4 Fatal Push and 4 Thoughtseize. So the 4 Fatal Push essentially are against any type of creature heavy deck or anything that's aggressive. 4 Thoughtseize for anything that's like control, or maybe we want to grind out with some mid-range. We have 2 Go Blanks that essentially help against any type of graveyard strategy or even control deck where we want to just have some additional kind of like card disruption. 1 Soul Guide Lantern as well helps with the Go Blanks in terms of graveyard hate, as a Go Blank does exile the player's graveyard after they discard the cards, and the Soul Guide gets rid of a card when it comes into play, or we can choose to sacrifice it for no mana later to exile each opponent's graveyard, or kind of just get a redraw if we need to cycle it away. We also have 1 Vivian Monster's Advocate to help against control or mid-range strategies, 3 colorless, 2 green. Legendary Planeswalker Vivian, you can look at the top card of your library at any time. You can cast creature spells from the top of your deck. We do have 28 creatures in main deck, so it shouldn't be a problem. And then the +1, make a 3/3 green beast creature token with your choice of Reach, Vigilance, or Trample counter. -2, when you cast your next creature spell, search your library for a creature card, lesser value. So all those abilities kind of just fantastic, especially in our deck. Just a great card against anything that's like mid-rangey, maybe something that has like a flying strategy because you can make some reach creatures, and against control. If you're able to get this and maybe just a great henge down, then you're just able to create tons and tons of value. We also have 2 other Vivians. We have the Vivian Reed, just a great card, once again, against anything that's playing flyers, anything that's going to be bringing in some artifact or enchantments, or just against control, where you're able to kind of churn out the card advantage on top of maybe like a great henge, where 3 colorless, 2 green, 5 loyalty when it comes in. +1, look at the top 4 cards of your library. You can reveal a creature, land card from among them, put it in your hand. The rest go on the bottom at random. -3, you get to destroy an artifact, enchantment, or creature with flying, and then -8, you get an emblem with creature's control, get +2/+2, vigilance, trample, and indestructible. So just a really, really solid card of all that we've seen in the past, but I think that it slides really, really great with this deck, because if you're able to get it for free off the fight rigging, then you're just going to start to generate tons and tons of value. But I know that anytime that I've played this deck, I've had a ton of fun. I recommend this deck on the ladder for sure. Like, we only really get to play a few games here for you, kind of just a sample size of the deck, but the deck is able to do some really powerful broken things very, very quickly, and a lot of the metagame just isn't really prepared for it. I'd even say that the deck is really good for tournaments, for any tournament that we're going to have. We have 2 Explorer tournaments this month, links in the description below, but overall, I think this deck is phenomenal in the metagame right now, and I definitely think you should give it a try if you have the cards, or if not. I actually normally don't recommend just crafting decks, but this is a deck that I think that if you craft, you're not going to regret it all. And a lot of the cards are just some cards that are existing from like old standard. But let's go ahead and jump into some games and see what nonsense we can do with this deck. Seeing if we can get some free spells here, play some big beefy threats, everything at once. And this hand is okay. It's a bit sketchy, mostly because we're not guaranteed to hit our shakedown heavy, especially if our Llanowar Elf dies. And on top of that, kind of missing some lands to be able to play our big threats. We are on the draw, so the mulligan does get mitigated a little bit there. I think I'll still keep it, mostly because we are on the draw. Like, let's say we mulligan and we end up with a similar hand anyways, then it feels pretty pointless, considering we're mostly just like a couple lands away from really having this hand be pretty gas. And it looks like we're up against Rakdos Midrange. We do have the Fatal Push, unfortunately, for our Elvish Mystic. Play this as a green source, pass it back. I think the Ronus first, maybe, so that way it doesn't get Thought Seized. Okay, yep, they still have the Thought Seize now, so yeah, I think we're going to lose the Ronus here. It's one of the better threats against them, or maybe they just take a Gargaroth because they're scared of that. Shakedown's an option because it's probably one of the better cards we can play next turn. Alright, so they do have the discard spell. They get rid of the Shakedown Heavy. We get the untap, but unfortunately we're looking a little bit rough here on the cards that we're able to cast with the mana available. So let's go and get the Ronus down. Okay, Bone Crusher, 2 damage to our face here. And looks like they might just be casting the Bone Crusher. Okay, they have a value play here of the Fable instead. We do draw a land, so let's go and get this Obosh into our hand. Fortunately, our Ronus can't attack yet, but we're getting closer. A land does get us a Gargaroth or a Verdurous Gearhulk. Opponent's going to potentially get a couple redraws here off of the Fable. Really hoping to hit a land here. So still, you know, that keep was a bit suspect for this reason specifically, because now we're mostly relying on the top of our deck to get us a land to be able to kind of just mostly do anything. Still a possibility because, you know, high risk, high reward. Gonna take the 2 damage here. Yep. And we do draw the untapped land, so we are able to get a Gargaroth down. And we could potentially attack with this Ronus if we wanted to. I don't think that we want to do it. I'd rather just hold it back to block. Fable's going to flip. We also have Obosh on the following turn. That kind of just means that Gargaroth is coming in for 12 trample damage. And they need to have like a Heartless Act here, essentially, to kill the Gargaroth. That's pretty good, though. Really looking for some lands here to get this Titan down eventually. That would be pretty good. They're actually cracking the blood, so I don't mind that. Ooh, a Thoughtseize. So, yeah, I mean, Titan's pretty good. Most of the cards in our hand are pretty strong, either way. And it looks like our opponent's going to go ahead and pack it up, considering they saw that we had pretty strong hand overall. I mean, kind of hard to grind through that, especially considering most of their removals are going to be fatal pushes, so Gargaroth's mostly just going to get to overrun our opponent. And I think for sideboarding against them, our elves do get a lot worse. Thought Seizes are okay, mostly stripping down some of their better cards. I do enjoy the Planeswalkers here as well. I think we can get rid of a Gearhulk. Bring in potentially one of each Planeswalker. I'm not sure on this Vivian. Let's just bring in 2 Thoughtseize, and I think that that's enough. We could potentially cut a playset of elves, I believe, for the 4 Thoughtseize, but I also like having the option of kind of just comboing off on them a lot earlier, especially considering they kind of felt like they kind of conceded early, so I don't mind keeping some of our more of our quicker cards to make them kind of tap out sooner as well. So on the play here, or excuse me, on the draw here, winning game 1 against Rakdos Midrange. Still trying to see if fight rigging is as broken as it was before. And just waiting for our opponent to sideboard here. Don't forget, we do host 3 tournaments a month. All are free to play with cash prizes. You can check that link in the description down below. This coming Sunday, we're actually going to have a standard tournament. It's going to be one of the first ones with the new format, so definitely get in on that if you're looking to experiment or see what is shaping up in the meta. And we'll go ahead and keep this hand pretty good. We have the elf plus 3 lands to actually cast a shakedown if the elf doesn't survive. And then eventually we have the Gargaroth on the top end here to help us out. And it looks like our opponent doesn't have a play, but I am expecting a fatal push here. And they do have the stick, and it is a fatal push. So probably just going to play this Overgrown Tomb tapped on the following turn. And they have an Unlicensed Hearse, which is an interesting card, I guess, to be playing. I'm not sure if they brought that in from the sideboard. We're not reanimating any cards here. Hearse is a decent threat. Don't get me wrong. So I'm not sure, though. I think we just play the Fight Rigging next turn because it's a hard to remove enchantment for them. Looks like they just have a Blood Tithe Harvester here if it's a high-end play. If not, then they're probably just going to pass. Maybe they're looking to hold up a removal spell for us, and then we can kind of psych them out by playing this into one of our bigger cards. Okay, Crocs is fine. I actually think I'm going to get rid of one of the heavies here. Don't mind that. We have two of them, and in all honesty, the Gargoyle's still just better than the Shakedown Heavy. And this land ensures that we're going to get to either one. So let's go and get this Fight Rigging down. Yeah, we're going to miss a +1/+1 counter, but that's fine. And what are we going to hide away here? Looking for maybe like a Titan Industry. We have a Gear Hulk, another Rigging, Ronus, Regisaur. I think we'll go with the Gear Hulk because it's more of the power play. Still a pretty hard card to deal with. Okay, they're going to exile a card from our graveyard. So let's see if they keep up a push or some form of removal spell here for the Shakedown. Okay, Blood Tithe Harvester is fine with potentially their land drop. Yep, and they do pay the 2 life for the Blood Crypt. So it looks like maybe they're holding up the Fatal Push plus the Blood Sacrifice. Wow, they're actually going to do that now. So I'm thinking we're pretty free here to combo off with the Fight Rigging. So we're going to have Gear Hulk plus Shakedown Heavy, and then we can hit the Gargaroth on the following turn. That feels pretty good. They're going to crew. That's fine. Take a couple damage. Not really a big deal. And they can't Kroxa yet, which is really good for us. Let's play this tapped either way. Get down the Heavy. Rigging's going to put the counter here. We'll get the cast of Gear Hulk. Make that 7 power trample. We'll pump up the Shakedown so that it's like a real threat. I mean, either way, they're probably going to give us the card, but I really want to make sure that this 8/6 Menace is just pretty sizable threat. Opponent's got 3 cards left. They still can't Kroxa. We don't have any cards in our graveyard for the Hearse to grow. They'd have to remove some cards from their graveyard. And we'll take a look and see what our opponent does here. Okay. Opponent going to the tank here. Maybe they have a Fable, but Fable right now would be a little bit too slow. So they're going to kill the Shakedown, which I find kind of interesting, mostly because they can choose to not take damage from the Shakedown Heavy. It's not like they have to do that. So let's go and get a Gargaroth down, make that a 7/7. That way we can keep pushing through like this Kroxa. Just going to come in for some trample damage here, and opponent's actually just going to scoop it up considering they're kind of a bit behind, and we're just playing some big beefy threats here. So let's move on to the next match. Let's see if we can keep casting some free spells, beating our opponent down with some beefy monsters. And this hand is a bit weak here. We're on the draw, so mulliganing does get a bit mitigated here. No lands in our second hand, so we have to take another mulligan. And we can definitely keep this hand a bit weak, but definitely playable. I think we'll put the Gear Hulk back. And we're kind of just leaning on Ronus plus Obosh in this match, looked like, in the first game at least. Ooh, Fight Rigging is actually a fantastic draw, though, because even though the Ronus isn't going to get it off immediately, we still have a pretty good chance to kind of build up towards that. Opponent does have a Scorching Dragonfire here, though, for our Llanowar Elf, so no turn 2 Ronus, unfortunately. Play this as a green source, seeing as how we have a black here with our Deathcap Glade. And Regisaur is a bit sketchy, mostly because we have to discard some cards to it. I think we can discard that Gear Hulk, though, that we just drew. So let's get the Regisaur down. Okay, just gets ionized. That's fine. We'll take some damage. They'll counter the spell. Play another tap land here. They keep on top, so they're potentially just like a Izzet beatdown deck, maybe. Gonna go back for the shakedown. I kind of want to resolve this fight rigging because if we get to resolve it, there's a high chance that we'll get two spells for free here. Do they have a removal or a bounce spell? They're definitely targeting the shakedown here. Okay, Prismari command. So there's also a chance that they're a creativity deck. Maybe like an Opus type situation. Niv Mizzet. Okay. Pretty interesting here. Does opponent have a counterspell for us is the question. Here's a fight rigging and they just have a negate. That's fine. Gonna try to come in for 6. If not, then we'll get a redraw, maybe hitting a land. Alright, we hit a Mystic. Not really the land we were looking for. Could be an All-Runs Epiphany. And their Exile Zone. Let's come in for 6. Still no land here. Let's play another Shakedown to potentially just kind of try to smash or draw some cards. If they do play All-Runs and they just take another turn, essentially it's just like them redrawing a card, really. Yep. So they get another redraw here. They can double block one of the heavies now. And it looks like they have another All-Runs. And we have a fight rigging, so let's try to play that. Does that resolve, or do they have Assault coming? Okay, make disappear. Still the same thing here. Counterspell, unfortunately. Let's try to come in for 12 damage. Maybe they let us redraw. And we do draw a forest here, which does give us this Mystic. Potential into these Gargaroths and then the Gearhulks. Okay, Behold the Multiverse. Pretty good draw. For our opponent, they put one on the top, one on the bottom. So they could have another All-Runs here. Which is a bit threatening considering that it's just going to give them more birds, maybe. Yep, I think that they do have another one. Okay, they just have Niv Mizzet instead. So we can play this for 3 life. We'll play this Ronus. They have Make Disappear. Okay, they're going to hit the Mystic. We'll float the mana, sure. We'll pay for it. It's kind of weird. And then come in for 12. Probably just getting some redraws here. Yep. Can destroy the treasure. I think that's about it. Can't play land. Let's pass it back. We had to pay 3 life for the turn timber. Yep, gonna go down to 10. So if they do have All-Runs, we're definitely in some trouble here. Yep. Gonna put us down to 3. So if they have any way... Yep, they're gonna do an opt. So if they just have some spells here, we're pretty much dead. Fortunately, we can't get rid of this Niv Mizzet. Needed the Gargaroth down for that. Could have been an argument to play the Gargaroth. We would have gotten hit with that counterspell either way. So we have a fight rigging. Gargaroth can potentially gain us some life. But we lose to them drawing a card. So we need to hit... We need to gain some life now, and the only way to gain some life would be to try to resolve a Titan Industry. But unfortunately, they had a counterspell for us, so kind of got hit pretty hard there in game 1. Mostly spells deck here. Let's go with the Thoughtseize. A couple of go blanks. We can get rid of a Henge, a Gearhulk. Let's get rid of a playset of our Land War Elves. And the question is, do we want our Planeswalkers? Maybe we want a Vivian over another Gearhulk. And I don't know if our 3 drops... Let's see, Shakedown wasn't as spectacular as it could be. So let's just go with something like this to kind of try to go against what our opponent's doing. Like, they definitely have a strategy that we are going to have a harder time against. Especially if all they're doing is, like, controlling the board and then just playing a big flyer. Like, the only way we really get around the flyers is the Gargaroth, but... Opponent seems to have a lot of counter spells and just interaction in general, so it's going to be kind of hard to land those, but we're going to give it our best shot here. And this is actually a pretty decent hand. We have the Regisaur. Fortunately, we're not going to get to play this Titan, but there's a chance that we just discard it either way to the 7/6. Let's see if they have an opening kill spell for us here for a Mystic. Okay, just a blue mana. So we're looking to slam this Henge down next turn, discarding one of these Overgrown Tombs. Okay. And I'm actually going to pay the life just in case they have a Make Disappear, because it's going to be 2 extra. So I'd rather be able to pay for it. If they have a Negate, then it's obviously a bit unfortunate, but then we're smashing in for a ton of damage here. So the question is do we still want to come in for all 8 and then put the Obosh into our hand, play like that? The Fight Rigging is still likely to get counterspelled, I believe, so let's come in for damage. I think that 8 damage is just solid here, and they're going to Scorch and Dragonfire the Mystic, that's fine. We can hit our opponent for 7. And I'd rather resolve the Fight Rigging now. And then we can get a Gargaroth, I think is a better play here. So they gotta have a way to deal with the Regisaur, like kill it or bounce it to our hand. If they bounce it, then we still get to replay it and then just cast something for free off of the other Fight Rigging. So we were definitely able to do our game plan in that game. I'm gonna be trying to do something similar here, obviously, in game 3. I think that we're still set up pretty good here to do that. Henge plus the Fight Rigging is just really hard for any opponent to kind of beat. So I'm able to take game 2 down. Let's see. Opponent's definitely potentially thinking of some different sideboard options here. Maybe now that they've seen some alternate cards that we have. But they're ready to go and jump back into another game. So let's see how we do here. Hoping for pretty good opening hand. Some speed maybe, plus some late game. And we definitely have some speed, plus the Thoughtseize. So I actually think I can keep this, because 2 Regisaurs could be pretty serious against our opponent here. I don't mind paying the life, getting the Mystic down. If they want to kill the Mystic, that's fine. We still have a Thoughtseize on the following turn that we're going to be able to use here in order to keep the pressure mounting for our opponents. Let's go to get this Regisaur down. They might have a Make Disappear. They actually don't, so Regisaur is just going to come right down onto the battlefield. We have to discard this Titan, I think. Let's see, so we can go into Boseiju. Yeah, I think we just discard the Titan and kind of just go in here on some big 7/6s. Let's see, we have the Thoughtseize. Let's come in for damage first. Yeah, let's Thoughtseize here. See what they got. Fortunately, we only have 1 black source, so maybe keeping the Titan was better. They just have Saw Cummings and a Niv Mizzet. Let's get rid of one of these. Can play a Mystic. Let's pass it back. Could have put the Obosh, I guess, into my hand instead, but I like getting some more creatures on the battlefield. We have them on the 2-turn clock. If they don't have any way to interact with our Rotting Regisaur, then we kind of just win here. Let's get rid of this Boseiju. Yeah, that's fine. We have enough mana. Yeah, coming in for 9. And unless they have a way to kill one of our cards here, we're looking pretty good. Okay, Behold the Multiverse. Really good draw for our opponent here either way. Put both on the bottom. We also have Obosh on the following turn, which feels pretty good. And we actually got away with that game. It looked like our opponent's answers just didn't line up. Just a pretty quick start there with a 7-6 on turn 2 is just enough against Izzet. Pizza people, are you enjoying the content? Don't forget, subscribe to the channel. It's free. Hit that bell icon as well. That way, anytime any of our new content comes out, you're able to see it right away. Hey, leave a comment down below as well. Tell us what you're going to play in the next event, or tell us what you're enjoying about the video. Don't forget, check out the description too. We've got tons of great content down below. And on top of that, we're going to have our tournament schedule too. So get in on it. Hope to see you. Beating our opponents up here with some fight rigging. Casting some spells for free. Slamming some big, beefy threats on the battlefield. Running away with the game here. This hand's a little bit weird, a little bit awkward, especially considering that we're not able to play our shakedown heavy on time. We're a bit flooded as well. I think we can keep it though. It's a bit weird, but being on the draw definitely helps. Oh wow, okay. So looks like we're up against like a sacrifice, so probably anvil type deck here. Let's get this Elvish Mystic down. If we draw any untapped source, then we're going to be able to get this Ronus or potentially the shakedown heavy. Okay, Blood Tithe Harvester. That's pretty good. That actually kills our shakedown heavy. No blocks. So would we rather just play that into the Ronus so that way they don't maybe try to make another blood token? I actually think that's okay. We kind of put a lot more of the target on the heavy here. So if they want to do that, then we just have Ronus on the following turn, and then we can potentially get to this Obosh and kind of start to do some crazy things with double damage. Ronus is going to be a lot harder of a threat for them to deal with. We're hoping to dodge Thoughtseize here, because obviously they'd be able to get rid of it in a manner that they normally wouldn't. Yep, they are going to kill the heavy. Still would rather do that than them maybe getting a third blood token, which they did have the third blood token with this Epicure here. So now if they have a Blood Tithe, it would still take another full cycle essentially. So taking a little bit of some chip damage here and there from our opponent. Ooh, Regisaur's pretty good. Yeah, I think we'll play... let's play Ronus to be safe, knowing that the Ronus is potentially just going to stay on the battlefield. And then we'll play another one of our mana creatures here, another Mystic. And then we can play this Regisaur on the following turn, ensuring that the Ronus can block. We might even want to trade with the Unlucky Witness if they attack with it, considering that it makes them have to cast the card on their turn. Opponent's discarding a land, so they're a little bit out of gas, potentially. If they have an Anvil, it's going to be a bit annoying. Or maybe even just like the Cat Oven combo here. We're already at 14, so even though that seems like a decent life total, it can still be drained quite quickly against that deck. Opponent's going to come in for damage. Yeah, we'll block the Witness here. That's fine. We'll make them choose their card now. So they just had 2 lands anyway, so... Obviously, we helped our opponent to some degree there, but not as crazy as it would seem. I think we want to keep this turn Timber, so we'd rather play the Elf. And then we can come in for 5. Yep, gonna come in for some damage here, put our opponent down to 13. And let's see, 3, 4, 5, so this would be 6, and then we need 1 more mana, but we've got to discard a card. So I think it's okay to just keep both of these cards in my hand. They're going to attack a Numa, getting back a Blood Tithe Harvester. But Blood Tithe can't kill anything this turn unless they give it haste, which they could have. A Claim the Firstborn would be a possibility for our opponent, then they just get to kill the Ronus, but we'd be left with a pretty big Regisaur here. If they want to kill the Regisaur, then we don't have to discard any cards, and we'll get closer to the turn Timber. Okay. So they are going to take the Regisaur. They're not showing us a sacrifice card on the battlefield, but we're going to guess that they have one. considering they went for that play. So it's looking like a deadly dispute here. Or a village rights. Okay, deadly dispute. And they're still able to play the Blood Tithe Harvester. Some really good plays from our opponent here. Giving them a really good chance still. And they have a Cauldron Familiar on top of that. We draw Fight Rigging, so we don't get to use the Fight Rigging yet, unfortunately. And we can't pump up. This is other. So it would only be 4. So we have to put Obosh into hand. We'll play this. Kind of just have to pass here and hope for the best. Obviously, it's not looking great, but we can trade some cards. We have to pay 3 life for this if we want to play the Obosh. Guess I'd rather just take the 3. Okay, they have Epicure, sure. So we're going to go down to 7 here. Definitely don't like it, but it's okay. If we draw a big, like a Regisaur or something, then we'd have to pay 3 life for this. Okay, we draw a land, which is good. We'll play Obosh, which blocks all right. And then, let's see, we also have Fight Rigging, which is okay. So they play Gigantha. Yeah, we're mostly just hoping to hit a really big card here. They probably just swing through. Okay, they don't. So let's play Fight Rigging. Titan. 4, and then we Fight Rigging. Block. Not looking good here. Think we just have to pass. Pump this up. Can make this 4. Still not enough, so we can take the Gigantha hit. They're cracking blood. That's good so far. It's a good sign. If they hit the engine like a oven, then we're almost put in the position to have to block with the Mystic, but not yet. I didn't want to take the chance of tapping out completely and playing this Fight Rigging, and then it becomes a problem. Opponent down to 2 cards, but quite a bit of gas on the battlefield as well. Could chump block the Gigantha with the Obosh as well. That's an option. Also didn't want to just leave myself up to just removal spell die, right? Opponent going to the tank here. Thinking about what their options are. Might have a Deadly Dispute here. Okay, Ob Nixilis, so they'll get 2. Ob Nixilis here. So, let's see. They're going to downtick on one of them. Yep, make a devil, and then uptick on the other one is my guess. Let's see, block, block. Yep, I'm going to take it. Okay, they have that. Alright, so we drew a Gear Hulk. 3, 4, 5. That's pretty good. We can gain some life and do some things here. So let's play the Gear Hulk. Two counters here. Combat, pump this up. Cast a Titan. Gain 5. Make a 4/4. And then 3, 4, 5, 6. Not enough to kill that. Alright, just gonna block with that. I don't even think I want to do that. I don't think I want to give them the cards. I would rather come in with the trample threats than give them cards. And next turn we're going to have another Fight Rigging. So that might be enough to give us the game here. We're just going to take the damage. Gonna go down to 6. We have enough blockers here against them. They just have 1 card. This could potentially be 2 damage. Put us down to 4. We can block enough of their cards. They're gonna crack a blood token, get rid of a witness, to redraw a card. They still have 2 blood tokens that they can sacrifice. We're at 6. We're not out of the game yet. We're looking to hit another Titan Industry here. The Obnixilis is pretty dangerous. We're going to have to attack them with both of these cards next turn. Or we just attack them with just these huge, huge threats. We have a Turn Timber. I think we just go for a rigging here, because it also makes our cards pretty big. Regisaur isn't great, but it's a card. Yep, just gonna pump these up. Cast this for free, give us some more blockers. Attack with both of these. Oh, well, we can attack the Obnixilis. This is lethal, though. 3, 6. They can block 6 of just... They have to block with everything. Yeah, I mean, they have to block with everything here. We can discard 1 card to Obnixilis. Sure. They take 24 here, I believe. Because of the Obosh. Yeah, they just die to trample here. They needed to block with everything, and then even if they block with everything, it's not even a guarantee that they survive, because we're still looking pretty good from having a card to discard and them not having a board. Against this deck specifically, Go Blank is fine. It gets rid of their graveyard. I just feel like we can overpower what they're doing. But I think that maybe we still want the Go Blanks and maybe like a push or 2. I mean, if they have Mayhem Devil's definitely a problem. So maybe bring in the Go Blanks, cut a couple Land Wars. Let's see. Do we want to really bring in anything else? I'm not sure. I mean, if they get a Mayhem Devil down, maybe we're just hoping to hit some big threats at that point. I think that we should just be able to go over the top of whatever it is that they're doing. Not really have too much of a problem with it. And we'll go ahead and mulligan this hand. It's a little bit slow, and we're not guaranteed to hit our 3rd land drop. There's a world where we keep it because we have our combo pretty much, but this is a lot worse. And we're going to have to keep this hand. Definitely not a great hand by any stretch at all. Done in by the mulligan here, and yeah, just going to take the Elvish Mystic. Not really any other cards in our hand for our opponent to take here. Going to start off with both of these layers, hoping to hit. Rod and Regisaur would actually be potentially the best card to hit here. But if they have like a Claim the Firstborn, then we're definitely be in some trouble. Probably play this Blooming Marsh into putting the Obosh in hand. And obviously double mulligan, not ideal, and you know, our opponent also had the Thoughtseize for the 1 card that we can essentially play, so found ourselves in a bit of some trouble at the beginning of the game, but it doesn't necessarily mean that we don't have a chance here, so let's play the fight rigging. I think I'd rather play it than have it get discarded from our opponent. If they're playing Thoughtseize, let's do Go Blank. Seems okay. Can help get rid of their graveyard. And we're going to take some damage here. Definitely a bit of a slow game for us, but like I said, double mulligan, not really much else to do here. Looks like they just have a deadly dispute, maybe main phase. Okay, Obnixilis, sure. I think that we can discard a card. Or do we want to take all the damage? It's 4 damage, quite a lot. Let's discard one of our cards here. Gonna keep the Henge in case we draw a big beefy threat still. Have a chance. Turn Timber, definitely not the card we want to see. We'll play it tapped. Obosh into hand. And then maybe try to save up for this Henge in a couple turns. Like I said, I mean, we're still not like out of the game, but it's looking pretty rough. Especially with the reflection flipping over if they hit double Mayhem double here. The opponent could have quite a big turn on us. And I'm just going to decline here, trying to hit this Obosh next turn into maybe this Go Blank. Go Blank also gets worse if our opponent kind of plays their hand out. Okay, Blood Tithe Harvester, sure. They're going to get to copy that, which is pretty good for our opponent. And we hit a Shakedown Heavy. So we actually can't play our Henge yet. Let's go ahead and pump this up here. Could have, I guess, gone for the Go Blank to get rid of our opponent's last 2 cards. That might have been the better option. I'm not sure. I really like getting this Obosh down into the Henge. Yep. The main reason, too, maybe not wanting to play this is because we're just going to lose it anyways to them copying the Blood Tithe Harvesters. So if they want to kill the Obosh, then okay, they hit the Mayhem double either way. So they should be able to kill the Obosh without a problem, I would believe. Okay, Epicure. And they can give -4/-4 to the Obosh. Yep, gonna copy. Yep, so they can kill it now, no problem. So a bit unfortunate. They kind of just ended up hitting all the cards that they needed to hit here. Take some damage. They can't kill our Shakedown Heavy now, though, so we still will be able to go blank. A bit weaker now, but also going to be able to Great Henge, which feels pretty good. So let's get rid of most of their graveyard, get rid of another Fable. Play the Henge, go back up to 5, but we're just dead to the Reflection and the Obnixilis. So a bit unfortunate there. Go Blank was kind of a bit awkward, but I mean, we kind of just got a bit unfortunate ourselves with the double mulligan, in all honesty. Like, if we were able to get our game plan going sooner, then we still would have been able to overpower them once again. And this hand's a bit sketchy, but I think I'm going to keep it. Like, the high risk, high reward type situation here, honestly. We have the double fight rigging. If we draw an untapped source, we'll probably play one down first. They have a kill spell for the Llanowar. Okay, just a Thoughtseize, so maybe they get rid of the other Mystic instead? Okay, one of the fight riggings. We'll get a Mystic down and attack for 1. So, obviously, this is a super sketchy keep, but we're hoping that we get, like I said, high risk, high reward here. So, what do they have? Just a Blood Tithe Harvester. That's fine. And we do draw a land. So let's actually play our fight rigging down. We'll get a Turn Timber Symbiosis. Also kind of just like the 8/8 with Trample. Yeah, let's grab the Turn Timber, and then we'll play our own Turn Timber tapped. Pump up an elf. They could potentially kill an elf with the Blood Tithe Harvester. We're looking to top deck a land for this Gargaroth. Okay, Fable. Let's see if they do kill one of the elves. They know about the Henge. They're actually just going to attack. And we don't hit a land, unfortunately. So, a bit rough for us. Let's put this Obosh in our hand. Not really much we can do there. We get to attack. I think I'd rather just pass it back. So definitely in a bit of trouble here. I mean, if our opponent has any removal spell for our Mystic, we're going to lose some mana that we'd be able to cast this Gargaroth with. So game 3 here, like I said, kept a sketchy hand to begin with. So, I mean, even the fact that we're at this point in the game, I'm feeling pretty lucky. But still looking pretty dire here, especially with this Bloodtithe Harvester down. Okay, Ob Nixilis, they're tapping out for that. That's fine. We got some cards we can discard here. To the Ob, so it's not really like a big deal. I'm just going to get rid of this Obosh. We're not going to cast it. We don't have black mana for it yet. And are they going to come in with the Harvester? Potentially not. Ugh, still no black mana. So a bit unfortunate here. We're just not hitting our lands that we need. No attacks, just going to pass it back. I think I'm okay pumping the Llanowar, so they have to use the Bloodtithe essentially here. Really looking for any land here. Okay, gonna have to discard one of our henges. If we hit a black land, we also can cast our Routing Regisaur, so we're not out of it yet. Still have plenty of things we can do to stay in the game. Mayhem Double, pretty bad here. They can't kill one of our cards yet, at least from what we can see that they have. They have a Claim the Firstborn. It pretty much taps them out. We do hit our land here. So let's pay the life, and we'll play the Gargaroth down. It's a 6/6, turning into a 7/7 to give us a turn timber. Which we're looking for a Tina Industry here. We hit another Gargaroth, which isn't bad. So 6/6, 7/7, still pretty good. And we're still in the game. We get a great henge down on the following turn to get us closer to this Titan of Industry. Let's discard the Routing Regisaur, not really too worried about that. We'll take the damage this time. We're at 11, so a bit sketchy here as they can get a second Mayhem Devil down with their Reflection. It's looking like we're probably going to block with our Gargaroths here. At least one of them. Okay, Bloodtithe Harvester. So unfortunately they might even be able to kill most of our, if not both of our cards here. So they're going to get to copy another Bloodtithe. Yep. They can kill one of the Gargaroths outright. And then they can shrink the other Gargaroth and then maybe shoot us. Or they can just finish it off with the Mayhem Devil, it's looking like. Wow, they actually passed it back. I'm pretty happy about that. So let's actually get Regisaur down here. Gonna redraw us a card, hit us a Gearhulk. Make this a 8/8. And I'm actually attacking one of these Ob Nixilis here. I don't mind getting... Let's draw a card, or do we want to gain the life? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we have enough mana. Gaining the 3 would be helpful. I think I'd rather draw the card. Alright, we hit a land, which is a pretty good land too. Helps us play our Gearhulk. And I was hoping that they would let our Gargaroth kill their Ob Nixilis, and they did. So still in the game here. I think we take it because we want to keep our cards for our... We want to be able to play this Titan next turn. And if we discard a Gearhulk, then we have to discard another card to our Regisaur. And they're going to kill the Gargaroth. And deal us a point of damage here as well. Like I said, still not out of it yet. They can also kill the Regisaur if they really wanted to with one of the Bloodtithe Harvesters. Okay, they're not going to do that. Let's discard the Gearhulk, unfortunately. And we'll play the Titan. Gaining a couple life. We're going to... Let's see, we can gain some life. And also make a 4/4. I think we want to blow up the Fable. And did we just make the 4/4 because we'll still have another threat? I feel like that's okay. Gaining 5 isn't bad either, though, because at least we gain 5. I think that's a bit rough of a decision here. We have a card to discard to the ob. Yeah, let's make it 4/4. Let's blow up this Reflection. Do they have a Deadly Dispute? Maybe they do. That's fine if they do. Not really a big deal. We'll go down to 10. They do have quite a bit of cards now, and they have this treasure that they can freely sacrifice. We'll draw a card. Not really a good one here. Did we not get the 4/4 here? Oh, that's a bit awkward, right? Shouldn't we have gotten a 4/4 there? Did I miss something here? Was there something that I missed? I'm not sure. I feel like we should have gotten a 4/4 there, right? I think that was kind of like a bit awkward. Let's pump this up. Yeah, I feel like we should have gotten a token there. That was kind of weird. I'm not sure. Maybe I missed something there myself. Not sure if I did or not. But I could have sworn that was what we picked there. That was kind of weird. I'm not sure. Yep, Titan's gonna die. And then maybe they just kill the Regisaur. We're still okay. We have Henge down. Looking to draw some creatures. That was a bit awkward. I could have sworn we picked the Rhino part of it, right? I don't know about that. That was a bit weird. Okay, gonna put Gigantha into their hand. We hit a Ronus, pretty good. Let's draw a card. So even though they have Mayhem Devil, we can still chip away at them here. And I'm gonna try to kill... Let's try to kill their Obnixilis, actually. Pump one of these up. And I think I'm okay just attacking with this one. Keep back our 4/4 to block the Mayhem Devil. They block with that. We can still just give this Trample. See if they have some kind of response for us. I'm going to play this Lair of the Hydra too, I think. We can discard the Overgrown Tomb to the Obnixilis. I guess they can just kill our Land Werewolf if they really wanted to. By just sacking a bunch of cards and killing it, which I'm okay with that myself. That's less damage we're taking. Opponent does have quite a bit of cards, so this is turning into a bit of a grindy game for us here. And all they have to do is just sacrifice one of their treasures, and the Land of Werewolves is going to die. Yep, another Deadly Dispute looking like. So, a lot of damage here. We're almost dead. Our creature dies. We'll play the Lair and pass it back, so... Bit of a rough game for us here. This Mayhem Devil's been able to stick onto the battlefield for a few turns. You could have made an argument to maybe bring in the Fatal Pushes, but I don't really think so. I think that we're just dead to what they have potentially just on the battlefield. That's 4 damage. And they pretty much just need to find another 4 somewhere. Yep, claim the Firstborn on the Ronus. And they're going to go ahead and Deadly Dispute it here. We'll go down to 7. And do they have another claim here? Maybe they do. Okay, they have an Oven, so it's looking like we're pretty much dead here. Yep, another Mayhem Devil. We're going to go down to 5. I don't think that they'd kill the Mystic. Okay, we're looking to top deck a Taina Industry because we'll be able to blow up the Oven and gain 5 life. Second Oven now, so we would be taking 4. Fortunately, we just draw another Henge, so we can go up to 9. Do we just attack the Ob Nixilis? Henge into Henge. Can also rumble up with the Lair of the Hydra. Fortunately, I think we're just dead here. Dead to rights are kind of like what our opponent has. So let's just go ahead and scoop it up. I think a pretty close match. Either way, we just weren't able to really get our game plan going there. And then our opponent kind of just had the Fable +2 Mayhem doubles, which is going to be hard for anybody to beat. So definitely got beat by a deck that ended up going more over the top than us here, at least for the one turn that they had it going. So we'll go ahead and see it for the post-game wrap. I know I had a ton of fun playing these games. All right, there you have it. Fight rigging, still just as broken as it was. We ended up playing 10 games, going 7-3 with the deck. Deck list in the description below with the stats as well. But overall, I think this deck is fantastic for climbing the ladder. You're able to just do lots of broken things very, very quickly. The Rakdos Midrange decks kind of have a little bit of a harder time considering they're not able to get rid of the fight rigging most of the time unless they thought seizes, and most of your threats are out of fatal push range, so they're going to have a hard time against your deck either way. Against control, you can also kind of maybe get post board wipe, or maybe try to get your opponent to board wipe and then go off. Maybe play around some counter spells strategically and still be able to do some pretty broken things in your sideboard with the Thought Seasons and Go Blanks help against that as well. Planeswalkers, things like that. But overall, I think that this deck is phenomenal. I definitely recommend it in the season restart here, and I recommend it just for any tournament at all that's Explorer. I think that this is a deck that's a little bit under the radar and can definitely come in and do quite a bit of damage. The only thing that I would maybe suggest is bringing in some more graveyard hate, specifically for like the Cat Oven or maybe even like a Grease Fang type strategy, which we could be a lot weaker against considering we don't really have a way to get the Fatal Push off early against the Grease Fang. But what we're doing can also end up being a little bit broken against them, considering that they can get the part healing down, but most of our cards have reach if we're able to get them down early and often. So I still would recommend that. So maybe just some sideboard changes overall, considering that I mostly just wanted to see if the deck was still just as busted as I remember it being, and it really is. But I think that in terms of this, I didn't really update anything. I really, really recommend updating the sideboard here for like a Grease Fang type strategy or anything like that that has to do with like the graveyard, because I think other than that, you're kind of like set against most of the decks that you're going to be going up against. But yeah, definitely check the deck out. Check out my content as well down below. Don't forget, 3 free tournaments a month. All are free to play with cash prizes, and I hope that you stay cheesy.